the report of the House of Reps Committee on Constitutional Amendment. I want to give us this background. The state creation is in the front burner, or appears to be in the front burner now, not because it is a decision of the House of Reps or the National Assembly to create state. It's because there is a constitution committee, amendment committee, which they just made their report available. And that report does not translate to state creation. And as it concerns us in Akwa Ibom State, we want to say that the Obolo State demand from Akwa Ibom and Rivers State, and then some other states from Rivers who are looking for state to be created between Rivers and Akwa Ibom, has to do with the taking over of the coastal region to form what they may call, like some will say, Ijo and all of that. That is not really correct. For us in Open Forum, having been part of this process, I was the secretary for the BBO People's Position Paper in the 2022 confab, and we saw there were 4 demands for state creation. We had a state movement. They were the largest contingent. They were over 70% of the entire hall at Obiwali Hall in Abuja. In Rivers State. We had, I think, Oil River State or Oil Atlantic State or whatever it was called from Rivers State. They were part of Akwa Ibom. We had Obolo State, which was Andoni, Western Obolo, up to Ibuno, up to Oron. We had Oro people who demanded for New Calabar State, 4 states from Akwa Ibom. But now they are talking about 1. But the bottom line is that it is not 31 because the House made an error in repeating Ibadan State twice. So it actually states 30 states being requested. That's not the issue. The issue now is, are we, or is state creation the national question we should be asking and looking for answers? I want to throw that. But Prof is a communication expert. Let me start with Prof.
Thank you. State creation, in the way they're talking about it, is not the way to help this country. First of all, let me make my opinion clear. The government we have, at least the central government of this country, is not interested in human development or national development. They are interested in creating dependencies so that Nigerians can be beggars and they will be easier to rule. And part of the fractionalization of Nigeria, rather than restructuring it, is to enhance those dependencies. The people will come and worship you.
But meanwhile, Prof, let me stay on you. Is it visible? No civilian or democratic dispensation has ever been able to create state. So, creation of state, for me, it's something that is just a distraction. So, we may not even take them seriously.
I'm not interested in state creation the way they're doing it. I am interested in this country being restructured so that each entity, federal entity or confederate entity, is viable enough to make its citizens happy, productive.
Captain Augustine Okon.
Well, we should ask ourselves the question, at what point in our political history were we considered a rich nation? You see, when you fractionize to a point that we are not viable, let's take Akwa Ibom State and Cross River State. When we were Cross River State, and even go a little further, when we were Southeastern State. Southeastern State and Cross River State, I would think, was the same in geographical entity, just a name change. That we were large enough to be economically viable. And I would prefer, if you ask me a question, should we split what was Cross River State into 2 or 3 or 4? I would rather we go back to the whole, because economically it will make more sense. We can produce food that will feed our people. We have a lot of land mass in the on the eastern side, that is the Calabar, Uboja, what is present Cross River axis. We have a lot of population in the Akwa Ibom axis and the blue economy that is attached to it. Sharing that amongst the people makes more sense than breaking it down to several unviable political entities that, like Prof says, become dependencies. Where are you going to get the money to make it work? How can they pay their bills? How can they pay their salaries?
I think that's
it's not going to be viable.
I can answer that question.
Okay.
Where are you going to get the money? Where we are getting? Impoverish the Niger Delta.
Yes.
Carry the money and share it. The wealth of on nations, not nations. Now, you go to local government. They're talking about local government. Local government should have been and used to be responsibilities of states. Now, you stay the federal and create entities that are neither viable, nor contiguous, nor culturally.
Okay, let's do this. To add to what Captain Augustine Okun said, I remember Victor Ndomagba, I think he was the leader of the Senate. When this issue of state creation came up, he said states should be merged. So I want to agree with you. And then for those who are saying that, landmass, or we want to have equal number of states like in the Southeast, Niger State is bigger than the entire Southeast put together. Niger State. So if you're looking at landmass or whatever, so should Niger State be divided to 7 states? Now, there are some clear cases of marginalization, which is what Open Forum has been advocating. We are an advocacy group, and thank God, Prof have been part of what we've been doing. He's even a member of the Eminent Citizens Advisory Council. A place like Eastern Obolo is in Akwa Ibom State. People know it's in Akwa Ibom State, but the level of degradation, the level of abandonment that is there, troubles. Same with a local government area. Same with a clan called Ipanya. I think in Ibiono. I've not been there, but I'm going to go there. I've been to Ini. I've been to where when a bike comes on a road that leads to a community, a person that treks will have to enter the bush because the road will not contain 2 people, even if they are on foot. So we should be talking about development. We should be talking about making government productive. I want you to speak to it because the issue of state creation sounds insulting to people who know the problem and also have the solution. And we are dragged backwards. Any of you can take it, just maybe in 30 seconds, so that we move to the big talk.
Well, I don't think state creation is insulting. It arises out of a sense of deprivation.
Yeah.
I think when Captain Okun was talking, what used to be Calabar province in the colonial, Calabar province, was so concise and self-sufficient. You have everything. From blue economy to crops production to fisheries to animal husbandry, very rich. You go to Ogoja province, the colonial provinces were viable entities, were culturally contiguous entities. So instead of fractionalizing, bringing all these things, sentiments so that people can dismember themselves, both physically and spiritually, I think it's wrong.
Absolutely.
I think there are people who are angry or be marginalized in the present political groupings. What we should be looking at, how can we assuage their fears, bring them in, have an inclusive society that nobody feels oppressed, nobody feels cheated, and is making its contribution to the state or the present arrangement that we have. For as long as people are oppressed and feel that they have been deprived of their rights, you are going to see a whole lot of this type of agitation for their freedom when they have a state. But what they may not realize is that the future that they will be free, they will be on their own, but they may not be able to pay their bills.
And beyond that, minority issue will still crop up because within the minority, you still have the minorities who will be looking for what they call freedom.
And if you remember the Minority Commission that sat in Port Harcourt in 1957, the crux of what they said was that the problem of minority in Nigeria is not minorities itself, but the fears of minorities within minorities.
What a way to end it. Open Forum has been advocating that in Akwa Ibom State, no section will be looking for state creation if there is even development. We are oil producing. The area that has majority of the oil, there's no development there. I said that I've been to the palace of the paramount ruler of Eastern Obolo. The day I went to meet His Royal Majesty there, I was shocked at how he manages to navigate. Now, we have advocated and still advocating for the setting up of the Akwa Ibom Oil and Gas Mineral Producing Communities Commission. Akwa Ibom may likely be the only state in the South-South, and the Niger Delta doesn't have it. Let a portion of this derivation be put into development. You can't have an entire local government area with one primary school and one secondary school. No water to drink. So that is our advocacy, that we've agreed that here we don't need state creations. We need the practice of federalism, which will address whatever called restructuring, devolution of powers, and all of that. And unfortunately, the vice president has said in a video which has not retracted that the talk is about restructuring, and he said restructuring my foot. And Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a pro-federalist person, pro-democracy activist. Now is the time to walk the talk. And if that is not done, it will be one of the greatest letdown in history. I'm sure he's going to do it, and we must encourage him to do it. Thank you so very much.